This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
This morning, and welcome back to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, your station for fresh news, smart talk all day. It is Monday, the 11th of March, 2024, and you are on the clock with Erin, Greene. Today will be an open line Monday. There's lots to talk about in the news. I'd like to hear this morning what you would like to talk about. The numbers to call 323-6232, 325-4316. 325-4259, and for Family Island residents, the toll-free number is 242-300-5720. That's 242-300-5720. To start the show, I have to say happy birthday to a wonderful, wonderful woman. Her name is Joycelyn Frazier. She hails from South Andres, and today is her birthday. Happy birthday, Joycelyn Frazier from the Greene family. There were a bunch of birthdays today. Facebook, don't fail me now. Facebook is failing me, but to all my Facebook friends and people whose name I haven't called this morning, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Mr. Nuri, good morning.
Good morning this morning, Erin. How are you doing?
I am good, thank you. You have any birthday greetings this morning?
No. This is March. This is my mother's birthday month, but he's at the end of the month.
Okay, that ain't bad.
Yeah.
Friday was International Women's Day.
Yeah, what does that mean?
That's a day where across the globe, women and men join together to celebrate, commemorate, and the status of women and girls, right? The progress that they have made. And we take time to focus on the most detrimental issues facing women and girls across the globe. I often we hear the cry, what more do women want? Right? A lot of the issues that local women's rights advocates focus on are issues that people don't really see in their local context. They don't see them as big deals, right? A lot of the issues that are being addressed are far more prevalent in other parts of the world, like what we call the Global South. And what we call like the Asian East, right? And so for the Bahamas, a lot of the advocacy is about entrenching successes in law so that we may never return to that place where women experienced oppression, discrimination, right? So, for instance, women enjoy many rights here, but those rights are not codified, right? They're not entrenched in law, or there aren't protection mechanisms to guarantee that those rights will always be protected by law, right? And I think that's important as well. But Equality Bahamas had a successful International Women's Day March and Expo on Saturday. We marched from the Eastern Esplanade at 9 a.m. to Dundas, the Dundas at the Mackey Street. And then we had an expo for a couple hours. It was a really, really good time. We want to say thank you to all of the people who exercised patience while we were impeding their Saturday morning. But it's important to demonstrate, right? It wasn't a protest. It's important to demonstrate your commitment to these issues, and that's what we were doing on Saturday morning. This is a great, great weekend. You saw anything interesting this weekend, Mr. Nuri?
I'm thinking. I mean, social media was hot, but I'm not necessarily want to know if we want to talk about social media. So much things in the news to discuss.
Yeah.
I see that we had a international rapper, singer, person who Bahamians were agitated about. She gave some opportunity highlight for some Bahamians, and she inadvertently, purposely, perhaps by mistake, insulted Bahamians in general, and they just gone wild.
Yeah.
They say, "The hell with the exposure. We don't like you no more."
Yeah, there's a relatively new R&B artist.
Okay, that's
I
R&B.
I think the name is Nilla Willa. When I see it, I just think of Vanilla Wafer.
Yeah, but I'd never heard of her.
Right, I'd never heard of her either. And she had this thing called an open verse challenge, right, where she posts online her singing a verse of her song, and then she invites random people, the whole world, to jump on and add their own verse.
And we must know that her verse is about the Bahamas. The song is about the Bahamas.
Right, so the song is about the Bahamas.
Yes, and the verse that she sang preempts the challenge is mentions the word Bahamas.
Right. In fact, like you say, the song is about being in the Bahamas or visiting the Bahamas, right?
Yeah.
But does that preclude other people from participating in the open verse challenge if the song, if the sort of the central theme of the song is the Bahamas? Does that automatically preclude? Does that mean you should know, right? Does it mean you should know if you're not a Bahamian, this is not for you?
Well, perhaps. But what if the person who doesn't know that it's about the Bahamas, but it's a Bahamian song, or does know and intentionally insults us in the song?
See, now, that's an issue that can arise, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that.
So who do those people clap back at?
First of all, why are you clapping? Why are they clapping back at all?
Bahamians clap back. All countries clap back. You don't diss China and don't expect them to respond. You don't diss the United States and don't expect them to respond. Why should we be the only ones to get dissed and just be quiet?
Now, when you say you don't diss China, you mean like if I, Erin Greene,
Culturally,
had a scathing critique
Yes.
of China
Yes.
and its human rights system, that people claim that they have concentration camps, euphemistically, that's the word, known as re-education schools, right? That the Chinese are accused of waging genocide against the Uyghur Muslims, right? If I lay that critique, you telling me that all of the Chinese people in the world
Well, but not all.
Turn around.
Maybe a good 20. Not all Bahamians clap back. Maybe a good 20. But does that preclude them from ever clapping back? That no, you don't deserve to say anything. Let the people them talk and come complain.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Why this desire for these tight rules, right? The same way you telling me let the Bahamians clap back is the same way I'm saying, well, let other people contribute to the song.
Yeah. So they contributed and we responded. Or they responded. See, that's what it is. And then end there.
I thought the response was inappropriate.
Bahamians have a right to respond to anything.
No, they have a right to respond.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking the response is inappropriate. This idea that she should not have allowed, like the artist should have made it clear that only Bahamians are allowed to participate in this activity.
And perhaps it's the person who did responded to it. It was a Jamaican group who responded as a song. And I guess it rubbed a number of Bahamians the wrong way since there is a social media tit for tat happening between Jamaica and the Bahamas right now. So on the same platform, and that's a background, they said, here goes these Jamaican going again, challenging us on our things. So they clap back.
Right, but it's not our things. It's her things.
It's her things, yeah. But she came here, and we help her with her things. So it's our things.
How did we help her with her things?
We throw her around. We showed her around.
We do that to all tourists.
Yeah, but she got to ride a jet ski for free. She got to film her video for free. He's got to pay for these things, right? And we helped her we give her all the Bahamian lingo and language and terms and say, okay, use that for your song.
Are
Then
you
she
sure
said-
that's what happened? Because you're making it sound like she didn't
It was a collaboration.
have the
It's a
song
part-
idea until she got
No,
here.
she wrote that song right here. It's a collaboration.
Who are the Bahamians listed on the credits? Are there any Bahamians listed on the credits?
You start seeing the problem.
Because this is a
You
for
start
me,
seeing the problem.
this is an interesting cultural interrogation, right? On Bahamian culture and ideas around ownership, right, and rights and what belongs to whom. So, if Jamaicans can't jump on this American woman's song,
About the Bahamas, which she filmed and produced here.
then does that mean that all Bahamian reggae artists have to get permission from Jamaica to perform reggae music?
Right now, there's a dance battle drift, right? That the Jamaicans put out. It's the number one song right now in the world right now, and or at least on TikTok in terms of performing this dance. The world performs the dance, right? But we know that's a Jamaican song. We pay in tribute to Jamaica when we dance it. In fact, even the Get 'em Reggie dance, we know that's a Jamaican dance. We pay in tribute to the Jamaicanness, even though Reggie is a Bahamian. And I assume that the Bahamians who was listening and say, okay, this lady came down to learn about us, to absorb our culture, to produce a song. When she gave the challenge, we assume that she was speaking to us.
Now, see,
And
what
if-
you said just now suggests like an intentionality that she came down here with the intention of creating a hit song from the Bahamas, right? Like
Yeah.
of the Bahamas and by the Bahamas, but she's not Bahamian. I don't really think that that's what, because that's like an imperialist, right? Like a colonizer.
That's what they are.
You think that's what she was doing?
That's what
She's
she did.
colonizing.
Yes, what she did.
So if she is the colonizer, right? Then in this instance, has the colonizer won again and created a false division between Bahamians and Jamaicans?
There's always a division between Bahamians and Jamaicans, and we perpetrate that too. You see, come Carifta, won't we do that rift again? We got to beat the Jamaicans, don't worry about everyone else, but we must mash up the Jamaicans. That's what, and we can call one former 100 meter runner, 200 meter runner, relay runner, and say, okay, you do the battle call, and you say beat the Jamaicans and only them, and like the Jamaicans, them can say, okay, we got to mash up the Bahamians. It's a constant thing. This is our theme. This is what we do. They say, "Oh, we got to get more seats."
Right, but
because
isn't that
the
type of
Jamaicans coming?
isn't that type of rivalry expected in competition? Is that the
makes it
same
long
thing?
lasting? Not when people taking it personal and getting long lasting, and the rift now become personal. And when we start having this personal conversation and it's agitated and poked at, especially when we already know there is a uneasiness between the groupings, you don't continue it. You say, okay, no, we go all Caribbean, but that ain't happening.
See,
But, like I say, come correct, we can see it. We can see it.
Because I'm getting the impression now that the nationality, a political construct, is an illusion intended to keep us divided in the most important spaces. Because if Nillawilla is the colonizer, then the colonizer's plan is successful and Jamaicans and Bahamians are tearing at each other in a space where they should be celebrating their sameness and not their differences, especially when you realize that their difference is a false political construct.
Once upon a time, circa 1962, 1963, when we made overtures to be more connected to the Caribbean, the UBP government make a definition, say the Bahamas is not a part of the Caribbean Sea, we are in the Atlantic Ocean. That has now proliferated and proliferated throughout our society, that black Bahamians now adopted that same concept of separation. That anytime you talk about the Caribbean, no, we're not a part of the Caribbean. We adopt the UBP separatist movement that we are better and being inside the Atlantic Ocean. And forgetting that Trinidad also is in the Atlantic Ocean, or Barbados is in the Atlantic Ocean, or that Guyana and Belize are not in the...
And Honduras.
And Honduras, but they're all a part of the Caribbean, right? Or not accepting the definition that they meant Caribbean Basin, not the Caribbean Sea, right? We allow colonizers to infiltrate our minds, and now we have a division amongst us that we can't separate no more. This is a part of us, is ingrained in us.
I mean, in this moment, right? That's the beauty of physics. In this moment, but there's still the potential to change that.
We want to
the
change
future.
this? I mean, we don't want to change. We're comfortable with it not being a part of the Caribbean.
I don't like this broad we you use.
Yeah, you right
You
now.
know, like when I read
right
this-
now, they said freedom of movement in the Caribbean, and we make sure say no, you don't mean us. We don't want you all coming here.
But see, we're still a part of CARICOM, but we have
He's observer status, man.
no, we're part of CARICOM, but we have taken the option to not sign on to Caribbean Single Market Economy or the free movement of people. But see, I don't like this broad we, Mr. Nuri.
Yeah, you want to separate it again.
You were separating us.
I just call it like how it is. There's them
See,
over there, and there's we
Let
over
me
here.
give you another example of me not liking this word we. An article in last week's Guardian, we need $1 billion to fix BPL.
Have mercy.
I don't like that we at all.
I don't like that we at all.
The numbers to call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, 242-300-5720. That is our toll-free number, and the text line is always 422-GR96. That's 422-4796. For those who missed the story, Bahamas Power and Light needs more than $1 billion to pay debts and upgrade its aging and deteriorating infrastructure. Minister of Energy and Transport JoBeth Colby Davis told the House of Assembly yesterday. Colby Davis gave the dire assessment of the government-owned utility provider during her contribution to debate on the mid-year budget. She said the government has a plan for BPL that will allow consumers to see a gradual reduction in electricity bills by July 2024 and greater improvements in the reliability and resiliency of the energy sector by the end of the year. But Colby Davis did not provide any details on a deal the government is entering into to transfer the management of the transmission, distribution, and generation of electricity at BPL to private entities.
And I know the Prime Minister mentioned that you don't expose all of your information now. You just give general information and as you negotiate. But I wonder how important BPL, the operation and management of a public asset, is to the Bahamian people. And should we be aware of what the government plan to do with our asset? Or is it not our asset? It's the PLP administration asset at this present time. And whatever they decide to do with it, we must say, hey.
Sir, I rebuke that. Say that again. It's the current PLP administration's asset that they own it because they are the government?
At this present time. So
I don't have a
whatever they
problem with
decide-
that if it means that if you... Call back, please.
The line's gone dead. Go ahead.
All right. If it is that the current political language... Let's go to the caller.
Okay,
I will
fine.
stick a pin there that we can get back to that. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning, Erin. How you doing?
Good, thank you. How you do?
Yeah, listen, just on BPL, and I need the Bahamian public to understand this, and so we can stop having this conversation. When you borrow money from the IMF, you engage in something what is known as structural readjustment. It's also known as the Washington Consensus. Everyone could go and read this. Once you borrow money from them, you can't pay it back in a timely manner. They force you to sell all your utilities. The way that the loans are structured, that we borrow the money, we'll never be able to pay it back in that timely manner. We have to sell BPL. They will sell it. They've been having to sell it on all the utilities until they have paid back those loans, because the IMF is in sharp pursuit of what is globalization and known as laissez-faire capitalism. Please stop acting like we have no one. Stop acting like we have any choice in it. We will privatize all of the utilities. Goodbye.
Thank God
Thank
the
you.
Prime Minister said that's not true. I hear you in your conspiracy theory, caller. But my good Prime Minister doesn't say he doesn't plan to sell BPL, and that ends that. This is running on what you're saying.
I'm not worried. See, here's my thing, Nuri. I'm not worried about them selling BPL. I'm worried about them selling BEC. Because remember, BPL is supposed to be just a management structure. BPL is supposed to be a management structure.
And we need to explain
BEC is
there's two entities. It's
right.
BPL and BEC.
BEC is the entity that produces the electricity. And BPL is supposed to be the entity that manages the operations of BPL. Now, I'm troubled because I haven't heard one mention of the name Bahamas Electricity Corporation. I haven't seen the acronym BEC anywhere for years now, right? We haven't had a policy statement published, gazetted, I can't find it, explaining
You mean the opposition didn't ask?
the relationship between, because I believe when I asked the question, the opposition with the government, they didn't answer any questions when they're in government. They only ask questions when they're in opposition. But BPL is a management structure, and BEC is the entity that produces and transmits the electricity. And so my question is, when the Prime Minister says, listen, we're not selling BPL, what does that mean? What about
BEC?
BEC?
We can't sell BEC. And this $1 billion needed, where did we come up with that money?
Well, I can read from the article. Kobe Davis said BPL has over $500 million in debt, adding that its employee pension program is underfunded by $120 million.
Okay, how can we solve that? And they don't, it's non-contributory? Can we make it contributory and solve that overnight? Or the union say, no, that they ain't paying for nothing?
Well,
See, there's
when
no,
I continue
there's no
to-
explanation on these things.
when I continue to read the article, quite frankly, at this point, every employee at BEC, every employee at BPL, every employee in the Ministry of Energy and Transport, and the old Ministry of Works, for the last 5 years, need to figure out how they're going to pay this money. I think at this point, the staff and the labor at the entities are equally complicit in this problem. Let's go to the phone line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Dewey.
Could you speak up for us, caller?
Hello.
There we
Hello.
go. Great volume.
Yes, good morning. You said you want to know what does the Prime Minister mean by not selling BPL, right?
Right.
You only got Antoine Lambe.
Because if he know the answer, right?
He know the answer to everything, what they say and what they know, what they speak. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Throwing shade early this morning, man. Leave Anton alone.
You can need shade when the power don't turn on the AC. I go back to the article, we need $1 billion to fix BPL from the 7th of March. I'll start again. Kobe Davis said BPL has over $500 million in debt, adding that its employee pension program is underfunded by $120 million.
Let's pause there. Is the pension employee plan a part of the $500 million, or that's separate and apart? That $500 million plus the whatever $100 million is.
This sentence is not structured in a way that I could answer that with certainty. I'm not certain if the 120 million is a part of the 500 million, because surely if the union was owed 120 million in dues or in pensions or whatever it is,
But remember, the union
that's underfunded.
The union is not involved with the pension.
Right.
The company itself has.
Manages it.
Managed
But the point is, you don't think that the workers and the unions would have been in an uproar if they were owed that much money?
I don't think they're aware or get access. I think that was an issue, a contentious issue, that they're trying to get access to their pension fund,
Or at least the paperwork.
the paperwork. But what would cause it to be underfunded when the company itself is supposed to be taking out the money separate? That means the company spent it?
Well, did the company not deposit it, right, in the account that was created for the purpose of holding these funds? Did the company not pay it in, or did they pay it in and then subsequently pull it out, right? Like, are they paying it and using it, or did they never pay it?
And do we deserve an explanation of what happened?
Okay, of course we deserve, because
And did Kobe Davis
And let
give
me-
us an explanation of what happened?
no, she didn't give an explanation, but let me
And we
tell
should
you
just
why.
believe whatever she said because she didn't.
No, let me tell you why we deserve answers. Because they keep saying we need to find $1 billion. I can't find $1,000. What do you mean we need to find $1 billion? y'all need to find $1 billion. And y'all need to start figuring out how y'all going to pay this money back or to whomever. It is all. I got another story here. Who is the Bahamas government in debt to? Good morning, caller.
That was quick. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Richard holding on.
Good stuff.
I miss you all. I know if you all miss me. How you doing, Louis?
Blessings, man.
Of course we miss you.
Yeah, okay, that's good. All right, you say open line?
Yeah.
Okay.
But before we go to open line,
Huh?
you have any idea how we can raise $1 billion?
How we can do what?
Raise $1 billion.
$1 billion? You mean us as a group or the country?
I mean,
The whole country.
y'all as a group, because I
I trying to operate a fish fry.
A fish fry?
anyway, BPL say we need $1 billion.
Oh, you mean endemic?
Yeah. Don't laugh, because Alfred says say we need a $500 million as well.
$500 million?
I don't know how many cookouts that could take.
Well, one or two good. $1 billion? All this investment is be going on. We can raise that, man. And we sell shares in New York and stuff like that, too. We don't do the share thing for the Bahamas.
Who knows?
Or we do that locally, yeah.
I don't.
You know, when I say shares, you know the thing with Dow Jones and stuff be doing in New York?
Oh, I don't want my.
Let me stick to my point.
Yeah, I don't want the Bahamas government on the stock market.
Oh, that's what I mean, the stock market.
Yeah, no, we don't need to be there.
Okay, but I believe we can get there. We can do what we got to do, but we gotta do our investigation and do our due diligence to make sure they're doing it the right way.
Because if I find, see, if I am able to raise, say I'm able to raise a good little $2-3 million on my own, what assurances can the government make to the Bahamian people that they have resolved the issues that led us to this state?
They ain't tell us the issues yet.
No.
Anyway, Papa, I was distracting you. Go on.
Yeah, thanks. And I don't believe they get the $1 billion like you say. Yeah, that's what we need to make sure when they get the $1 billion, to make sure we don't get back in the same problems. It's a big possibility that they get the $1 billion or the $500 million, and we still have problems. I want to check with the hot sauce. I might have done drinking before. What Nuri say he's due. Maybe he say I don't know if that's just one in the plastic. I know they used to come in glass once ago, the Brasco or something like that. But I checked one out in the plastic lately in the bottle. And that was kind of good. I need to come across Nuri on so I could taste it, because I know they say pepper ain't too good for you and all that stuff, but I like my food and I like lime. I need my lime too. But what I wanted to find out from you all too is, you believe this loaf of bread, would it be coming from here locally? We ain't calling no names. Not to say it will come from away. Locally. Brown or white. It'd be the full loaf of bread, because the plastic bag is feel longer. And I was wondering if somebody's take some of those slices out of it. That's just a question. The next one is, these strawberries were coming from the shop. Like, I would have never known. I mean, I grew up, you might believe it, I used to go in the back of the food store, pick the best out of the worst. That's where I come from. So I appreciate where I is today. I mean, how good God has been to us. And
what happened to strawberries?
I see that moss and thing what it be on it, right? But I can't see that now because I'm blind. So if I fall into the strawberry, I wouldn't know that unless someone who could see. I was wondering, like, if it's a certain way we're supposed to keep them when we get them from the shop. Although I have a strong feeling they come with the shop like that. That ain't nothing what I do in here, right? And the watermelon, these little round ones, they don't taste real to me. I don't know if because I'm blind. Some teeth out my mouth now, ain't tasting good no more. But they don't taste like the watermelon from back in the days. It tastes fakey.
All right. Okay, Papa. So here's the thing.
What you think?
All right. I can tell you right now, for the strawberries, when you get your strawberries, I have to confirm it, but some people, when they get...
I just wanted to keep them out or what?
Listen, when they get their fruit, you put your strawberries in a bowl of water, and then you can add, I think you could add salt to it, or you could add vinegar to it. And you wash it around. Yeah, you wash it around for a few minutes, and then you rinse it off.
And then what?
And then dry them, pat them dry, put them on a tissue and pat them dry. And then once they fully dry, then you store them in a bag with holes in it so air could move through it.
And then what, leave it on the table or put it in the fridge?
Put it in the fridge. Now, in terms of the...
You don't think it could work on the table? I have a strong feeling, something telling me my spidey sense is saying maybe. You don't think the fridge is a problem?
Your house ain't hot, eh? My house so hot.
I get little duckless and stuff like that.
My house so hot, the avocado get ripe in 4 hours.
Oh.
Put it in the fridge. But in terms of the fruit, right, Paul, and I got a couple more calls.
Okay, hold on. Hey, sweet, hey, Mom.
I got you.
Check. Erin and Miss Tingham, this important. I know the other day when we was talking about initiative what the government doing, and I had to tell C.A. Newry about the pilot breakfast program, and he said, I know big thing like that, but I listened to the news and sounded like sometime last week Prime Minister make it official that all the schools in the Bahamas, the Farm Yard and everything can get the free breakfast because I say the children need it. Although to some people that mightn't be a big thing, I think it was important. Then you all put me in my place the other day, that woman with that fine voice who like come calling but pearly and all that. Say, I people a chance, give them, let them do their due diligence. But I hear them people who represent the LGB and stuff like that. The lady who last name, I'm going to say the Wallace lady, the lady who last name is Wallace. Yeah, she was talking, and I hear her say, and one of the things she said to bring it to my attention, she said not only for the tourists them, but for us here locally, the woman rights and all that stuff. Excuse me, but she didn't say nothing about the alleged rape or nothing like that. I ain't hear nothing from none of them saying that. I ain't gonna call these people name no more, because I don't think you're like when you call their name. So I was wondering, like, if that ain't enough time for them to do diligence, and if you don't think the lady who named Wallace, last name is Wallace, if she could say something Saturday to say condone it, condemn it, or whatsoever, because two men was accused for rape, and I don't know if there's enough time, but I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you. Well, I tell you what, Papa, for organizations to respond to that issue, we need a formal statement from an entity. We need a formal statement from the AG's office. We need a formal statement from the Royal Bahamas Police Force. We need a formal statement maybe from the company that employs them. But because the status of the case or the investigation has not been revealed to the public. Technically, we comment on what's in the public domain. In terms of the fruit, Papa, that's why you got to eat fruit when it's in season. So you eat fruit when it's in season. I got a story here about the feed mill, but we can get to that in a second. Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller. Caller, you there? Let's go to the next caller. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Greene. Good morning, Mr. Newry.
Morning. How you do?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm hanging in. The caller that Newry called conspiracy theorist, right? He's always on point. But the fact remains that I know sometimes Mr. Newry be facetious, right? But I just get upset when educated people don't believe that the world actually is built on conspiracies and by conspirators. That's the way the world is, why it is today. And so I like to make a joke here. I'm a fool, right? Because I trust the food that people sell me. And I don't question anything. And as it relates to this financial problem with BP Hell, right? And the likes, right? The young gentleman who's here was saying conspiracy, he mentioned and I heard you call the debt that they owe, right? And so when you're very bright, you talk about the chronology of the debt, the problem, right? And then I'm looking at the generation, transmission, and distribution, right? So maybe that's what they're selling, right? I was in a conversation with Mr. Allen. I don't see Allen and call in. And so then most of us, you have to realize that globalization started as early as 94 from the Treaty of Tordesillas, and also realize that throughout history, government's best interest is always to hide facts and truths from the public, Ms. Greene. And so let's move back to food and et cetera, and then a quick another input, right? The fact remains that food in itself, right, is the staff of all life. I'm concerned maybe tomorrow or through the week you can read there's an article about the new study on the discovery of microplastics in placenta. In the placenta in the females having children, right? And found the microplastics also being found in cholesterol, clogged up in the arteries, etc., and all through human organs, right? The microplastics. That this story has been running now for the past 15 or 20 years about discovery of plastics, but nobody's doing anything about it because they were juxtaposing it to antigonadotrophic effects on the human body, for sperm count, prostate problems, etc., but nobody's paying attention to it. So, hence the reason why 52 was always calling for years now for scientific ombudsman, so people could be enlightened, the public can be enlightened, versus being frightened by black swan events and the emergence of certain discoveries. So it's not the matter of me just calling to hear myself. It's the things that facing humanity. You see what I'm saying? And so we must solve these problems, but maybe with the situation with BPL and I heard you talk about the pension money, all of these things are frightening. So as far as the government raising money, what I'm saying is the government is for some reason they have to be held bent. They have to be short on American reserve currency. There has to be for them to be in these desperate measures. But I would people can't be drawn into the conversation about the sale of BPL unless it's who they're selling it to. Because if a company owes that amount of money and has been operating years for years ineffectively, even in the technological advances as far as their transformers are concerned, they haven't done any innovations in those, and they still continue to use the same company. They still continue to have the same problems with the infrastructure, I guess, because you have old infrastructure, they generate more heat, which in turn means more ampacity. All right, so if you have heat dissipating and wasting, you're wasting energy. So I don't know if somebody could come in as it relates to how we can raise this money. Maybe you all should ask Chicago Line, because I had asked him some time back, does the government invest in gold and precious metal? He had given me an answer.
No, I don't want them to invest in anything. And thank you, 52. And I see some people talking about if we had listened to Mr. Bain and the government invested in crypto, we would have been on a boon right now. There's a Caribbean country, Central American country that, as its government policy, invested in crypto, and that investment was used against them. See, sure, crypto is fine, but crypto is not a market that the Bahamas can control. It's not a space that's controllable, and if the Bahamas begins investing large sums of national resources in crypto, then our economy is at the whim of market forces. And what always comes behind market forces? It's always political policy pushing the winds of market forces.
And Erin, I'm listening to 52 just now. It seems as if our government is cash-strapped, especially regarding foreign currency. And I know we're talking about BPL, and I want to have that juxtaposed to NIB. And them using the word that NIB is in crisis, right? And that is in crisis of collapsing. And I will put it forward to the Bahamian public and anyone listening that NIB is impossible. It is impossible for NIB to collapse. And I've been hearing this narrative that successive ministers are saying, it's about to collapse. It's about to collapse. But the National Insurance Bill Act says that the government has guaranteed NIB. That means that if they short cash, our government puts the cash in NIB and it's solved, it's finished. So it's impossible for NIB to be able to collapse.
What if the government has been taking the money out as opposed to putting the money back in?
So that means that the government is about to collapse. And that's a whole different narrative, a whole different issue if our central government is short money and is able to collapse, right? But the NIB can collapse because NIB is has a surety from the government. The government has guaranteed that it's whatever you want to get your money from NIB, they will make sure that the money is there. So that narrative that NIB is on the verge of collapsing is impossible. That, and there hasn't been any audit or report on NIB for decades, right? I want to know what caused our most successful government entity to be in this crisis.
And hold on, let's stick a pin.
Go ahead.
Don't just say, well, Dorian and COVID.
It can't be just that.
Because
we've been hearing about this for like 10, 20 years now.
Yeah, well before Dorian and COVID. You can't just say, well, hurricanes.
It can't be. And if it is so, then there should be paperwork to explain what money was paid out, how much money was paid out, in contrast to how much money that it has.
And are you saying that audits haven't taken place, or audits haven't been gazetted or tabled in the House?
Either or, we don't have access to the information. And the idea that the government refused to give public access to the information to know where the buoyancy of national insurance is a problem. That means they shouldn't get no access to no new money. Because whatever happened before will more likely happen again.
And so this is the same question for both entities, right? Both NIB and Ministry of Energy and Transport and BPL. What assurances can the government make to convince the Bahamian people that this injection of cash in and of itself is the solution, right? How can you convince us that we will not arrive at the same place in another 10 to 20 years?
And that is a major concern, and nobody's asking that question. What exactly caused, in detail,
right, this depletion of funds?
Yes, and the idea if NIB cannot meet its obligations, the Bahamas Treasury is supposed to meet the obligations of NIB because it's being guaranteed by the government, by the act.
you know what's as scary as we need $1 billion to fix BPL? Reading from the article, NIB rate to increase every 2 years until 2044. Beginning July 1st, the National Insurance Board rate will increase by 1.5% and increase every 2 years after that for a period of 20 years. So here's the question. Will minimum wage increase on the same schedule? Right? At what point, in 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, will the raise in minimum wage be invisibilized, right? Like, it's of no value now because that money you gave me is going to NIB. And will the government put in law, right? Will you create a law that says minimum wage must increase every 2 years according to or simultaneously as the NIB rate increases every 2 years?
I acknowledge your concern, you know, especially when our prime minister, and I see I always go back to the prime minister, because it always goes back to leadership, has said that the $250 minimum wage is not enough. That anyone who's making $250 is what do you call that? Because he said, what is the different pay? One is a minimum wage, the next one is livable wage. Right? The livable wage is up to $300-400, and everyone is living poor. If you're making $250, you are the working poor.
And that's before the NIB increase.
Yes, right. So the idea that if you're increasing NIB and you know that $250 is the working poor, what are you doing to your poor people?
Yeah.
You're basically attacking. You took away the money that you're trying to help them with, especially when you know that they are the working poor. They are overwhelmed, cannot live, cannot rent, cannot buy medicine, right? Mm-hmm. Do you plan to increase it every time there is an increase of NIB?
Absolutely. I have a text that says, Erin, called for the minister to come on your show and explain NIB and BPL, BEC. Pressurize them. You need electricity to run the pressure washing machine.
I'm not sure if you noticed that.
The compressor.
Since 2009, there has been 9 different chairmen of the National Insurance Board. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen in companies, you know. 9 different one who leads the direction of the company. 9 different. That means it shows instability. It shows no direction of where they are headed to in terms of, I have a goal, we're marching towards this accomplishment. Because if you change it every 2 years to a new director, that means there's no policy. The policy change. We start all over. That could be adding to.
Or does it mean that these elected people elected to the boards or appointed? Sorry, these people appointed to boards, that they're just seat holders.
They're seat holders.
They're just tokens. They don't actually make the decision. And we could move in and out. We could have 9 different board members or iterations of boards over from 15 years? 2009 to 2024. Does it suggest that the company could run no matter who's sitting there, because the people who's sitting there are not relevant to or germane or an integral part of the actual policy creation for the entity?
I believe, Erin, before any new money is vested or invested in national insurance, there needs to be an order to find where national insurance stands. First of all, we know that the government, through NIB, has purchased several dilapidated mansions for tens of millions of dollars. It's on the books. The building never can get fixed. It's being on the books for 10, 20 years. These dilapidated buildings that was purchased. Is that the reason why the NIB finding itself challenged, that unable to pay its bills?
So the next question I had for NIB was, what should the funds be used for, right? And what shouldn't they be used for?
Well,
so you indicated that they bought these buildings. I have a story here. Ministry of Housing looking to redevelop abandoned homes into affordable housing. Housing Minister Keith Bell said his ministry wants to introduce a pilot program to redevelop abandoned properties and transform them into affordable housing areas. Do you think that's what we should be doing with the NIB money?
Leave NIB alone now. We're realizing that if NIB is not getting a return from it, we need to leave it alone. It's challenged, and we realize that whatever our government is using the money for, it isn't working. Look how many buildings that NIB owns that would a government used to purchase, that is just not bringing in income for NIB.
So I was thinking, who do I know who could help me raise $1 billion?
Besides the number of men who build in hotels?
Sir Franklin Wilson. That's besides the number man.
Yeah.
Right? Sir
Yeah.
Franklin Wilson. He could help us, especially since he said that his consortium of companies have nothing to do with this BPL.
Whatever happened to that last company which was trying to buy BPL the last time?
I don't know. Here's what I do know. From an article in the Nassau Guardian, what is Pike and why is it being mentioned in the BPL matter? It says, while the name Pike, a U.S.-based corporation, has been called many times in the recent guessing game surrounding the future of Bahamas Power and Light, nobody really knows what Pike is and what its connection to the Bahamas and BPL might be. I'm going to go further down in the article. It says, while Pike seems to be a legacy company in the U.S., its chairman, Eric Pike, is also no stranger to the Bahamas, as he is an equity investor in the Jacks Bay project in South Eleuthera, which has its parent company, Eleuthera Properties Limited, chaired by focal chairman Sir Franklin Wilson. Okay, so that means I can't go to Sir Frankie, to ask for help to raise this $1 billion, because that would be a conflict of interest.
All these ambassadors we giving contracts to, and that is not a conflict of interest?
Well, I mean, that is, but it's also a conflict of interest now, because now I can't go beg them for money because they are ambassadors.
They might get businesses. I well in the wager some of these businesses and investments, these various ambassadors attached to them.
Let me read some text. I wish I had money to wager. What BPL do with those large sums of monies they collected in the fuel surcharge over the last year? Now the text, pressure on us, so pressurize them. The people are asking questions through your show. We are the voters. Demand the ministers attend your show and answer the voters. Also demand that whoever is in opposition come on your show and provide viable options. We want everyone to know we are asking for answers, and if the big red and yellow machines cannot answer, then maybe neither of them should be in power. The tail does not wag the dog. They have to sing for their supper today, not just at election time. Producer, maybe we could take the caller dead quick. Another text, NIB will be taking 25% of your salary on top of VAT and other taxes, which in and of itself may not be a bad thing. What we want to know is, how are you going to use that money, and will it be used for the benefit of Bahamians versus the benefit of a political construct called administration?
Purchase more dilapidated buildings. Watch.
Good morning, caller.
Hey, morning again. See you still in Miss Greene.
Yes.
Tell me something. What you think? I know they get advices and people who consult with them BPL, right?
Yes.
This thing with this renting the generators, I understand someone was saying like we must be spending like $4 million or so much amounts of millions of dollars a month renting these generators. It wasn't sensible to buy it. I mean, I already asked someone and they said maybe what happened is that it makes more sense to rent them than to own them when it comes down to maintaining them. I always thought like owning your own things and taking care of it, unless we don't do a good job of taking care of it and we break up the people things and they just rent it. But I feel like renting was losing money. What you all think?
I have to get into more details on that, Papa, but it's a great question to ask, and it's something that we should be able to ask the policy makers. Again, I don't think Bahamians would have a problem with 25% off your salary for NIB, VAT, and other taxes if public buses ran. There were public bathrooms, and the existing public bathrooms worked when you got to them. Stop signs worked. Police enforced traffic controls. There's access to real health care at the hospital for everybody, right? That public transportation over land and over sea was more efficient and effective. People would not have a problem with paying so much in tax if they could see a return on their investment, as opposed to only looking up and seeing the political class continually celebrating themselves. Another text, just very quickly, Lady Greene, the IMF and World Bank does hold small developing countries hostage, hence we have to sell off our assets or privatize them. So our government would hoodwink the people with the process. Think first. And that's another question that people have. When you enter into these agreements with foreign entities or you get loans from supranational or intergovernmental organizations, what are the terms on the loan, and what is the country as a whole at risk of losing if the government defaults on said loans or contractual agreements with companies from foreign jurisdictions, right? That's what our concern is. And again, as we end the show, I just want to say, we still await an explanation from the government on the difference between, or the definition of BPL and the definition of BEC, because BPL is supposed to be a managing entity. And so when you say you're not selling BPL, that gives me no comfort. Gives me no comfort at all, because you haven't mentioned what you're going to do with BEC yet. Anyway, we're all out of time. Thank you, producer. You guys stay tuned. Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Nuri is up next. And hopefully this week we can talk about the $400,000 animal feed mill for the first phase of the Golden Yoke project.
I'm starting to think that we're rich because we spending money like crazy.
With very little return on investment, it seems.
And Behemoth seems not to care.
Sponge your money, never done. We say sponge your money. You guys have a great day.